Are you using the right retinoids, and how can you tell? This is a question that causes so much confusion amongst consumers. I wanted to address it in today's video. Now, in some ways, it's not as straightforward as when we look at the prescription grade retinoid space to make comparisons between the different types of retinoids. And that's because cosmetic companies don't perform the big, expensive clinical trials that we see with prescription drugs. So we don't have that side-by-side data to really ensure that we know how to rank them. But lab testing and the smaller studies done in vitro can give us a guide on how potent the cosmetic space retinoids are and give us an idea of their other properties in terms of things like stability, which is a really, really crucial part of how useful a retinoid is going to be when it's actually in the pot on your bathroom shelf. So let's just recap. Retinoids are the most useful group of ingredients in cosmetics essentially right now because they are the most effective when it comes to managing everything from breakouts and blocked pores to the signs of premature aging, rough texture, fine lines and wrinkles, uneven skin tone, loss of radiance, all that good stuff. And when we look at the cosmetic space, we're talking about things that don't have a proven drug effect, although they're clearly interacting with the skin in very meaningful ways. They're going inside skin cells, they're switching on retinoid receptor responsive genes, and they're affecting as many as 3,000 genes in our skin. So they have a massive impact. It's just that in the prescription grade space, that impact is much stronger. It's worth setting the scene really with the main retinoid that we all know about and we talk about a lot, Tretinoin, all-trans retinoic acid, which is the gold standard. The reason being that it goes inside skin cells and is immediately active, binding to those receptors, switching on those genes, building those proteins like collagen, stimulating production of hyaluronic acid, things that really do make a difference to the way our skin looks visibly. In the cosmetic space, the reality is that most of the active molecules that we use are not immediately active. They need to be converted through enzymatic steps to become all-trans retinoic acid or tretinoin. And that is why they are less potent. So we're going to look at three different over-the-counter retinoids I think are worth your attention because they are by far the most prevalent and effective in formulations right now. So let's talk first about retinol. Retinol has been around for ages. It is the most well-known of the non-prescription retinoids, and there's probably the most data available on retinol too for that reason. Retinol is of interest because it takes two enzymatic conversion steps to become activated into tretinoin or all-trans retinoic acid. And I've talked about this many times before. With each one of those conversion steps, you lose potency. So that's why it is a much more gentle animal than tretinoin, with similarly less potent, powerful effects. So you get a reversible conversion to retinaldehyde, and then you get an irreversible conversion all via oxidation, so adding in an oxygen molecule to the all-trans retinoic acid molecule. Now, that creates the first unknown unpredictability aspect to using retinol, because when there are conversion steps, these enzymatic processes, there is bound to be a degree of biological variability, meaning that one person might produce a lot of all-trans retinoic acid, another might produce less. The second issue with retinol is its stability. It is like tretinoin in that it's very, very unstable when it comes to temperature and light exposure. So how it's packaged is crucial to how effective it's going to be. So airless pumps are a given to reduce the potential for oxidation in the pack. But it's also really important that they're packaged with opaque material so that light can't get in there and cause the retinol to break down. So this is a big caveat when it comes to using retinol. The next issue is its irritability. For the amount of efficacy it delivers, it's actually relatively very irritating. And I think it's probably one of the reasons why vitamin A-based products has gotten the name of being a little difficult, a little capricious, particularly at the beginning. So I think about it in terms of the efficacy to irritability ratio. And it's relatively low, meaning that there is a lot of irritation relative to the benefits it delivers. So in conclusion, retinol, the upside, there's lots of it around and it's available at lots of different percentages, everything from 0.2 right through to 1% and beyond. So it's quite an easy one to titrate. You can start very low if you're very cautious and build up slowly until you find the threshold that your skin will stop tolerating it, or you achieve the results that you want. Downsides, that relative irritability in terms of causing skin to become dry, flaky, red, the kind of key signs of retinization. And potentially, you might not have as much in the pot after a couple of weeks of using it as you did at the beginning. Next, let's look at retinaldehyde. So that's one step closer to the all-trans retinoic acid than retinol. So that's a good thing. And that step is an irreversible oxidation step. On the downside, like retinol, like tretinoin, it is also inherently unstable. Again, meaning if a processing step like encapsulation, where it's sequestered away, prevents it from becoming oxidized, it is something that's potentially very easily broken down in the pot. So something to bear in mind. Again, particularly at the beginning when you start off using a product, you're not using it as often, you really do need the shelf life to be good in order for it to still be continuing on to be active while you were using it. Now, retinaldehyde is less widely available than retinol, so there is some limitation in access. Only a few brands use this molecule. And the reality is there are fewer percentages available. So it may be harder to titrate up because you often have to go through quite a big jump from one percentage to another. So that can also be a limitation for those of you who have very sensitive skin and really need to slowly creep up with the percentages in order to not get irritated and experience too severe a retinization process. So as I see it, there's a space for a cosmetic grade retinoid that is both efficacious and stable and less prone to irritating. And that's what I think we have in Granactive retinoid or hydroxypinacolone retinoate. They're one and the same. Just to be clear, I think people often look at the percentages of hydroxypinacolone retinoate and get confused. So there is 0.2% HPR in a 2% Granactive retinoid solution. Basically, Granactive retinoid contains a tenth of the amount of HPR. So when you see 2% Granactive, it means it contains 0.2% HPR. Make sense? Now, what's super exciting about HPR is that it is incredibly well tolerated for the level of efficacy that it delivers. Now, bear in mind, this is a cosmetic grade ester of tretinoin. Now that means no conversions are required for it to be active. It goes into the skin, gets absorbed into cells like the fibroblasts, it starts making collagen immediately because it can directly bind to those retinoid receptors. And you get all the same sort of benefits you get with tretinoin, albeit at an order of magnitude less potency. So that is exciting stuff. It makes it very predictable, but at the same time, it is an incredibly gentle molecule. So it's a fantastic one for those of you who are starting out or who have sensitive skin and have perhaps hit road bumps that have stopped you continuing using the likes of retinol and retinaldehyde in the past. So it really does display those key three properties: stable, efficacious, and low irritability. And I think certainly that's the reason why I made it the anchoring retinoid in the Dr. Sam skincare range. I looked at all of those available and I decided that was the molecule that had the most interest because I think it really has moved us forward in terms of making retinoids safe and easy to use so that you can harness all those wonderful benefits. So there's definitely some nuance to this. And I think either way, it's about using a retinoid where there's transparency around what percentage is in there, how it's been designed to survive on the shelf, because all of them have some nuance in terms of what's going to ensure that you have maximum active product in 2 months' time after you started using something. And you want that. You want to be sure that you're actually getting proper return on your investment by using something that you can work with over time, because most of us will start at a lower percentage and build up. So you want to be able to track that. So if you started with 0.3% retinol, you want to be able to build up to 0.5, 0.7, even 1%. So you kind of climb this concept of the retinoid ladder. And I think for the most part, there's no need to combine different retinoids in a single formulation. You know, you should have a molecule that you have faith in, it's the right one for your skin, it's going to deliver the retinoid benefits you're looking for, and then you simply increase the percentage of it. There's no real need to have different retinoids in combination. That's not something we do in prescription medicine space when it comes to retinoids, so I don't really see any reason for that in the cosmetic space either. By all means, combine retinoids with synergistic molecules like niacinamide and bakuchiol, which have different but synergistic modes of action. That makes sense to me. So that was a bit of a geeky one, but I think an important one to really understand the pros and cons of different retinoid molecules and where they sit relative to each other. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I think you'll also like my 5 top tips on getting started with the retinoid, and hopefully the two together might well just give you the impetus you need to get started on a new retinoid habit. Thanks for watching, guys, and bye for now.